What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fye and Eric Sheets-Haber. We're going to be talking through this massive NBA slate. We've also got a football slate tonight. Then we've got Saturday football, which I'll be going live for. We did a little quick preview yesterday with Adam Perry. It's a first look at this slate for me was there's not a ton of value. And we've got Sheets trying to pull a Jordan game here. He's playing sick here. So hopefully he can take it down, but not a ton of value that I feel like is like a must-have, but I'm guessing throughout the day, we're going to learn about some must-haves.
You must be a little behind the curve.
Maybe I missed something.
Okay. So probably so back when Gordon Hayward came back from injury, like 4 years ago, he was listed at 3K and he had full run, and it was it was like literally like not the only time, but it's like literally you have to play 100% of him. So today, Scotty Barnes is due to come back, and on FanDuel, he's 3,500.
What the hell happened?
Yeah, I don't know. Just a complete misclick or something. So
I actually hadn't run through FanDuel yet, but yeah, that's the biggest projection you'll ever see on anybody.
Yeah. If he actually plays like they think he might, that is. Listen, we don't like to say he's a lock. Anybody's a lock, but
that's a lock.
But that's a lock.
That's a lock. And projected ownership at 99.7%. I'll take the over on. I think it should be over higher than that.
Like that. By the way, if you look at my initial projections, that is probably the worst projection of mine you will ever see.
Yeah,
and that is a 56% ownership projection.
It's just you know what it is. It just happens. Yeah, but it'll even out.
Oh no, I'll change. I'll manually if I have to.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
So on FanDuel, it's an 8-person slate or whatever it is.
Yeah.
If in fact he plays, which I imagine he will. The other thing is Luka is out, so I would imagine that somebody would show up. But let me just take a look now. I got a couple actually. So I have Dinwiddie. Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
And I got another big old value piece also, which we'll get to. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's jump into it. I'll pull up you guys screen up already. Charlotte in Washington. What are you getting here, Sheets? Because I'm like lower on this game than I thought I was going to be at the moment, even though there's some pieces that make some sense.
So I don't have anything projecting. Again, you'll have to bear with me. Projecting that well from this game. I guess the top guy I would have would be Miles Bridges and Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
I'll let you take because I'm about to sneeze.
Okay. I will say that's pretty much all I have from this game at the moment as well. We do have Brandon Miller questionable. I'm expecting him to probably play, but if he doesn't, then we're going to talk a lot more about Bridges. Probably talk a little bit more about LaMelo, although I'm not sure how many minutes they're going to let him run out there. We got him at 31, actually, but LaMelo would become a pretty awesome play if he I think LaMelo's actually in play at 31. Jordan Poole and then Sarr would be my second favorite from Washington, but nobody who makes the priority rankings for me in this game. All right, next up, which one do you want to go to?
Next I have would be Utah and Detroit.
Okay. Okay. I never get anything from Utah. Anything for you from Utah? Because I think there is some good pieces on Detroit.
No, I have nothing on Utah.
Detroit?
Yeah, so I got a bunch from Detroit actually. Mm-hmm. Starting from no particular order. Jalen Duren, 5,500. Beasley at 4,900. And lest we forget, Cade Cunningham at 9,800. So I like all three of those guys.
Yeah, I agree with that. Some of these projections feel a little aggressive, like on Hardaway and everything, with Harris back, even with no Ivy. So I'm just kind of curious how it plays out. And I'll tell you what, the play I had the other day, which kind of worked there for multiple reasons, because you lost what's it called? I remember we talked about it with when they were playing Miami. We didn't know Jaden Ivey was going to be scratched, but remember there was a projection on Fontecchio, but it was Sarr Thompson just absolutely crushed. He put up 40 fantasy points in 28 minutes or 26 minutes. Sarr Thompson is someone who you could probably talk me into tonight as a stab. It's look, it's not going to look good projection wise, but are they maybe because he played well, they're not going to just play him just not play him because Tobias Harris is playing. Maybe he gets some of those Hardaway minutes. Maybe he gets some of those Beasley minutes. So he's my get weird play from this game. But yeah, Detroit certainly looks like a team you want to target. All right. Next up, we have OKC Orlando.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not the biggest. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm not the biggest Doc Rivers fan, but I'm not as much of a Doc Rivers hater as like a lot of people are.
Yeah.
I kind of like to see Milwaukee beat OKC.
Giannis was. I mean, that was. First of all, they made everything, but Giannis was great in that game. I thought
Giannis was great, and all I heard all week long or whatever was how Daigneault, the new mad genius, was going to outcoach Doc Rivers, and the OKC shiny new team was going to take out Milwaukee. So it was kind of good to see Milwaukee come and get that win.
It is tough to win though when you're 5 for 40 from 3-point range or something crazy like that. That's what they shot.
Yeah, well, you know,
it's part of the game. Yeah,
that's the NBA. You know, whatever. You
got
to shoot from there, and if you're not making them, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we? So I have Moritz Wagner at almost 6x on my board right now for Orlando. It seems to be the top thing from this game, and not much else. What do you like here?
I'm interested in all the bigs, actually. I think you could throw Wendell Carter into the same conversation. And the thing that's weird to me that I need to try to figure out, and it is a very tough individual matchup for Suggs, but we've seen Suggs without the other studs. I mean, I know he kind of had a down game last time, but he shot 4 of 19. He had a 30% usage rate last game, 35% the game before. I think Suggs is a great guy to get overweight on at low ownership. I think he's got 50 upside. We just saw it against Milwaukee in the cup the cup semifinals, or was it the quarterfinals? Either one. I think there's a massive ceiling for Suggs here that maybe isn't being accounted for. So he's the one I'm gonna say that I want to get, one of my differentiator plays of the day. So very high on the Suggs to get different. And Carter's my favorite of the big men, but I think having a little bit of Wagner makes some sense as well.
That's funny. Interestingly, I did run a Saber sim bill before we got on here, and I didn't look at it yet, but I am getting a bunch of the Miles Bridges and the Jordan Poole from that Charlotte Washington game.
It's a good game, and there are missing other key pieces, so I certainly don't mind it. I'm just curious. I want to wait to see what's happening with Brandon Miller before I decide anything.
Okay.
Bridges is probably a better play than maybe I probably should have said. He could be a core play by the end of the day for me anyway. Chicago in Boston, high scoring, but I got nothing. I like Tatum, I suppose. Nothing really seems to project, at least for now, all that well. And I scroll down the actual builds, not getting much either. Should I be forcing this in at all? I think that there's a case to be made for Peyton Pritchard, like in a blowout fashion. I also think that, as I always mention, when you have fast-paced teams that you're likely to blow out, and they're 14-point favorites tonight, Boston, and we do have Porzingis and Hauser questionable. So if anyone's out, I think the guys are going to look really good here. But the guys I like are White and Jaylen Brown. That's what you do in the blowouts for Boston. They tend to be the ones who go a little longer, get that extra run in the fourth if you're up 20 or whatever it is. I like those guys along with Pritchard a little bit, but Pritchard is again a very get different type of play. All right, Brooklyn in Toronto.
Top guy I have least points per dollar so far would be Day'Ron Sharpe, another center, and also Nick Claxton, another center. So that's interesting. Aside from that, on DraftKings, right? Not really getting the Scotty Barnes because he's 9,300. As I mentioned on FanDuel, you have to play him at 3,500, presuming he plays.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much the deal.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to go ahead and call BS on the early. You don't even have him as high, but SaberSim certainly does. I'm not buying this projection of 23.5 as a median number for Day'Ron Sharpe. This feels very chasey to me. Look, it's fine if we don't get other value, I guess, but I would rather just not do it personally. They do have, Claxton's available. And he's taken some minutes from him at times, but it's really like one game we're talking about that he had an outlier performance, and I don't really want to chase that. It does feel like we should do something with no Schroeder and no Cam Thomas, but I can't quite figure out whether it's only Ben Simmons. Is that it for me? I think you could make a case for Cameron Johnson, but I kind of want to do something here. It's probably going to end up being Ben Simmons, which doesn't feel great. But that's where I'm at with Brooklyn. And if Scotty Barnes plays, no interest in anything from Toronto. On DraftKings, on FanDuel, like you said, lock button Scotty Barnes. If Scotty Barnes doesn't play, I think we can consider going back to the Grady Dick, but more so, I think that the play would be RJ Barrett or what am I missing here? Oh, I forgot to mention there's no I feel like there's something we should be doing with no Podol, but I just can't quite find. I guess if you're getting Scotty Barnes back, that's why nothing's showing up. But if Mogbo starts, I mean, yeah, maybe not the worst thing, but yeah, not really much for me. I'm just sort of trying to think out loud here. All right, Golden State and Memphis.
Yeah, this is where my top, point per dollar play so far on the slate is, and it's your man. It's the Zach Edey at 4,300. I have him significantly over 6x projection. I don't know if that's subject to whatever, but looks pretty good to me. I don't know what he's been doing, but that's where I'm at right now. Golden State and really not much else on Memphis. Golden State, really not much at all. So just kind of one off of Zach Edey.
Yeah, I don't mind the 80 thing. I think that if it gets too popular, there's definitely a pivot. This is the kind of game that could go small, and it wouldn't be that difficult for Memphis. They have Brandon Clark starting. Brandon Clark is an interesting pivot off of Zach Edey. I mean, we know that he hasn't put up a ton of huge games, but he's had a few big ones recently. And he's the one starting. He can put up 25 fantasy points. He's 4,200. So also has power forward eligibility, not just center like Edey. So I'm open to Brandon Clark. And I know you're going to hate this play because I know you're not your favorite guy, but I kind of like Jaren Jackson a little bit tonight.
Okay.
Right.
What's his price? What's his price?
He's 7,200.
Yeah, I mean, I have him as. I have him. Well, I have Morant as actually a little bit better, even given the price. So I have Morant kind of okay, and then I am Jackson as reasonable. I have no issue with that. I look at Morant with like a 5% ownership projection. That's pretty intriguing to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
With Curry on the other side, if Curry on the other side, this could be one of those. No.
Yeah, maybe I should have thought a little bit more. Morant's officially questionable, but I think that's one I could talk myself into. Okay, I'm sold a little bit on that. Travis is asking in chat, how much are we giving Duarte? Just check SaberSim and see what their minutes projection is for him. I like giving some stuff away, but sometimes I feel like there's a lot of questions that I'm not sure if we're just like giving. I mean, I'll say it. We've got him at 15 minutes, but I don't feel like Kelly Olynyk is a real thing tonight. Atlanta and San Antonio.
Well, it's a day ending in Y, so Clint Capella is going to show up as a good play at noon. And that makes like the seventh center though that I have that looks good. So just be careful of that. But he looks good at 5,300. Who else? DeAndre Hunter, I guess. Let's see. Is Trae Young? So Trae Young is questionable. I'm presuming he's playing.
He's probable, yeah.
Yeah, I mean both the top guys here, Wemby and Young. I mean, look pretty good, and they both are going to be low owned today. So I mean, if you can get them in, and I think you should be able to. I mean, you could play both those guys if you want, but they both look pretty good.
We agree, but we don't agree with which is the top guy. I think the top guy is Jalen Johnson for the.
Oh, okay.
I just think he's just a much better player than Trae, and he's putting up basically similar almost the same fantasy points at 1,000 cheaper. So I love this matchup for Jalen Johnson. I really like that one, and I love Wemby on the other side. But again, as you mentioned, lots of centers out there, lots of centers to eat up. That's why those power forward eligibility guys are much higher for me. I really feel like we'd be better off if we just don't play Chris Paul at this price in general. I think almost considering in general, again, he's going to have some games that get there, but he always ends up high owned. He was like 60% owned the other night, and he ended up, what did he put up? 21 fantasy points.
He's always good for 5.5x. I mean, he'll be.
Well, he put up, I mean, the last game he wasn't even good for 2x, 3x, or whatever it was. But yeah, I think Wemby is the only one for me as of right now for San Antonio. All right, New Orleans and Houston. This feels
well. I mean, I have Missy as the 11th center I like tonight. But Houston, I do have a good projection on Dylan Brooks at 4,500. So I guess that's reasonable. Tari Eason 4,800. Van Vliet 7K is not bad either. That New Orleans, aside from Missy, I'm really not getting anything.
Yeah, I think this could be a situation where our argument for backstacking like the games, because you've got questionable Şengün, Tari Eason, and Steven Adams. Any two of those are out, and it's just a completely different slate, and we're playing a bunch of Houston stuff in a not ideal matchup, but it seems also like it'd be a good time to maybe sit one of those guys if you're going to play in this specific matchup. The Dylan Brooks thing is always a tough one because we know what we're getting. We know that it doesn't feel great, but he plays enough minutes. He's cheap enough. If Tari Eason's out, it solidifies those minutes even more. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but have a little bit of interest in basically everybody. And maybe at this price, we can consider some Jalen Green to take a shot on. That's all. I just think that everybody from Houston, it's going to be really hard to know without Eason, Şengün, and Adams all questionable. All right, what's up next for you? Let's see what we got.
Yeah, so that was the Clipper game. I didn't even look into this, because it was a couple of days ago. Whatever, man. That Bones Highland got the perfect freaking game script, and
no, but the lineup changed. Chris Dunn was supposed to be out, and he played.
Oh my God!
You
know what I didn't see?
What?
Did we know that on the 13th of December that he was going back to Denver?
The 13th of December was what day? Let me see.
Whatever it was, we either missed it or he wasn't on the slate or something. Because I definitely would have played that.
But actually, I don't even know if he would have been good value that day. That was
whatever. But I just probably would have played him anyway. I mean,
yeah. I
think we did talk about, but I think we talked about him before the Utah game. Right?
Yeah, but that was when we thought Chris Dunn was out.
Oh, I see.
Chris Dunn ended up playing. He was a late add to the playing, so it was a little harder to. I initially had a bunch of Bones Highland, ended up with like none of them when they announced Chris Dunn was in. All right.
Well, let me ask you this: why are we not just? I mean, I'm not getting a projection for him today, but why am I not getting a projection for Porter again?
For
Kevin Porter Jr.
Kevin Porter is he's got a projection. I mean, the minutes are not going to be the same without when Chris Dunn is in the lineup.
These guys all played though.
They played the last game, but last game they won by 40. You can't really take much from that.
He played the whole fourth quarter and blowout run, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because his projection dropped too, but yeah, I mean, he's a little more expensive at 4,800. I think that Dunn is the more logical play, but it's not even that's not that exciting to me.
Yeah, so I'm not getting too much of that. Of all the Clippers, I was just curious why it would be. So I guess because Dunn is back. Dallas with Luke out. You got to play somebody. So Kyrie, Spencer Dinwiddie, and who else? Hardy's out even. I mean, oh my God forbid if Kyrie is out too.
Yeah. Then we're having a conversation about
it's Gortman season or whatever. Like,
what's his name?
Oh, I know who's going to look good today. I know who's going to look good today. Quentin Grimes.
But he doesn't do anything offensively.
No, he does not, and that is the problem. But he's going to look good at 3,900.
Yeah, so, every now and then he can have a game, I guess.
So one of those three guys, and then Derek Lively, I guess, at 5,400. Clay is less than 5K with no Luka.
Yeah.
I might be cajoled into that.
Yeah, I have you're definitely playing some of these guys. I think Kyrie would be a core guy, assuming that he plays, especially at 8,200. I'm okay with the Grimes just because I think the minutes are pretty solid. But I actually think PJ Washington is the other offensive guy that could get things going, and I have no problem with Clay. So those are that's sort of the order I have it. And then Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie can be a very frustrating roster because
He can.
he really can play a lot of minutes and do absolutely nothing. But
He
looking for
certainly
value
can.
later.
Certainly live. Yep.
And I wish that Najee Marshall was a little bit cheaper because I think that he would be somebody I could consider tonight if he does. I think he's back in tonight. Yeah, he is. If he was a little cheaper, man, even him, he's probably still worth taking a dart on because he can do some stuff out there. He's active, and that's what they're going to need. This is a weird situation. I'm kind of surprised that they're favored by 4 even without Luka here. And yeah, well, I guess it makes sense. All right, Indiana and Phoenix.
Indiana and Phoenix, I don't have anybody at all. I do see a questionable tag on Bradley. Oh, he's probable, even less than. Yeah, I'm out of this game.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Tyrese Halliburton has a huge game tonight.
Okay.
I don't think it's that big of a limb. He's 8,400. He's put up 50 and 60 in his last 2 games after sort of dudding around. His usage is back up again. Phoenix plays fast. It should be a high-scoring game. Feels like the kind of game he could go off in. So I like the Halliburton play, even though the projections don't necessarily love it. And I can't get to anything on Phoenix.
All right. So we talked about 100 centers tonight. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Of different price tags, different values.
Yeah, this is. I know we're gonna do this, Sheets. We're gonna do it.
I mean, different reasons why you're supposed to play all these guys. But what if I were to entertain you? Someone's going to play 40 minutes going back to his home state. I don't really know how I fade this. Regardless of what the freaking projection says, and the projection isn't bad either, by the way.
Right.
So I'm just going to have to be the sucker and make sure that he gets in there.
I mean, first of all, Towns has put up 55 or more his last 4 games. It's already not like an irrational play. I don't care at all about this weird thing people think about Gobert's defense. Whatever. It doesn't bother me the slightest bit, especially because Towns is a shooter. So he's not even going to match up with Gobert all that much because Gobert doesn't like to come away from the paint. I love Towns here. I'm with you. I'll take the revenge narrative. I'll take every bit of it. And speaking of revenge, there's another guy in this game who has a lot of revenge in his heart in general, and that would be Julius Randle on the other side from the same trade. Let's do it, Sheets. Let's play those guys at no ownership. I think it's great.
Not to mention in general, Tibbs going back to Minnesota. It's like
Tibbs back in Minnesota. Actually, the game was in New York. Then I would really like it for Randle. That would be a big thing. But I like it for Randle.
Randle's got so much revenge, like all over the world right now.
Who was that?
Randle's got revenge, like all over
everywhere. But he's always, like I say, every time he comes to LA, he plays well. Since the Lakers got rid of him.
The only thing I would say, and this is it's not even worth saying because I don't even think he's going to be a popular Towns. Because people will talk about this. At the end of the day, they'll put everything in the Sims and they'll get the cheapos. They just will.
Yeah,
I think.
I'm gonna plug him in and just make sure I have like 20% at least.
Yeah,
maybe a little higher.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that revenge goes both ways, and that Minnesota's like, okay, we'll let anybody else beat us, but we're just gonna not let Cat beat us. All right, and that's a possible thing also. But
it's possible.
I'll try it.
It's possible. I don't care as long as for me it just means that, okay, maybe you get a couple extra shots. And by the way, I don't think he's a bad play anyway.
No, he's not.
You could play your centers with he and Wembanyama in a similar price range and maybe get in the 10Ks you can get 60 plus out of each of those guys. I think so. That might be what I do, even though there's all this other seeming value at center. That might be my favorite way to go about it. Anyway, it's an interesting slate. A lot of stuff going on. Definitely a late swap thing. I'll be live at 6 Eastern. We'll just call Sheets TBD for everything at the moment because
I should be all right. So here to give you an idea of how, when I say popular or lock, whatever the Scotty Barnes is. So this is really interesting. So I'm going to share my Saber Sim screen with you.
Yeah.
So what I did was I built 5,000 lineups, and then it tells you the exposure, and then it also tells you the exposure in the whole pool of lineups. Somehow I built 5,000 lineups, and I put them in 5,001 of them.
That's crazy.
And yet only 99.3%. I have a feeling there's probably some dupes in there, which is why it came to that. But you just have to play him. I said what would be more interesting is if, they came out and said Barnes is going to be on a strict minutes limit or something. And then people could speculate on what that means. He would still be a lock at 3,500.
Yeah.
But maybe he would only be like 80%.
I can't imagine a world where he's not 90. And, I mean, unless somebody forgets or something, that's it.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, hey, you didn't check, right? So
I hadn't looked on FanDuel yet.
Right, but I'm sure you would have found it pretty quickly.
I certainly would have. It would have been the first thing I noticed is when I sort by value.
Don't really see 12x projections, too often.
And by the way, the projection might be a little conservative. It probably
it's definitely low. I mean,
it's probably closer to 50 as a median.
Right,
45.
right. So. I mean, if he's getting full run, it's probably hedging against the minutes restriction somehow. It's like,
yeah. So overall takes for me on DraftKings is going to be it does feel to me like I'm probably going to end up double centering a lot. I mean, you have 8 out of the top 10 values are center plays as of right now, according to SaberSim. And it's really going to be hard to get away from that, to get away from either of those values, unless you want to do the opposite, the other thing, which is the Wembanyama or Cat. I still think it's double centers, and that's where everything's coming from for me. I also do think that that Cat, Randall, Halliburton, all these guys being late are good.
The Cat Randall thing could be fun.
I think it could be fun. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it. Whatever we get these chances, and then if it hits, it doesn't even matter. The thing is, nobody's doing it, so it doesn't really matter what we think. Oh, people are gonna go for chasing this. Nope, they're not going to play it. And
I would like to add. I mean, I didn't really look at it yet, but there are 2 games on FanDuel outside of the slate. Denver, you get Jokic on FanDuel at Portland, so that's something to think about. And the LA Sacramento game is on FanDuel as well. I really didn't even look at it yet, except to say that let me see what I'd be getting. I mean, I ran a quick build, and I really wasn't getting anybody from those games even. I'd be getting 30% Jokic.
I think Jokic is the only one that shows up for me because it's just maybe you could argue that LeBron's a reasonable play because Scotty Barnes is going to take up so much of that. I mean, you're going to play Scotty Barnes too, but he's not going to have any ownership, and maybe you could make a similar case for AD. It's a good matchup, man. The other one that again we can't play because of the center stuff is actually. Can we do it? I'm just trying to look at Sabonis. Yeah, he's got Sabonis does have power forward eligibility, so I actually would like Sabonis here a little bit. FD has to be no, they're not. It's not. Travis, you're overthinking this. Nobody's sure about anything. This just happens sometimes. They price guys down who have been out for a while, and you just end up with pricing glitches. If he plays, they're just going to be in trouble. Remember, we had the Bartolo Colon. That was actually the one they did on purpose, where it was his 44th birthday, and he was pitching. And they made him $44 as a pitcher.
It's pretty funny,
which was pretty hilarious. I thought.
I didn't know that.
So, other people were. He ended up I think he was 20% owned because he doesn't do much anyway.
They couldn't have made him 4,400 or something.
No, because 4,400 wouldn't have been nobody would have played him still. But at $44, you kind of had to okay.
Right.
All right. Well, it should be a fun slate. I'll be live at 6 Eastern. I'm going to try to get my content stuff done, and then I'm going to get over to I might do an NFL preview, but no matter what, I'll be live for NFL at 7 Eastern.
Wait. So hold on. Give me the schedule. So 6 for NBA.
7 for NFL.
7 for NFL. When do you think you're going to do the NFL Showdown preview? And are you doing it with Adam, or are you doing it by yourself?
I would try and do it solo. The only issue I've got is I've got a call in an hour. It depends on when we have another call that I'm not sure about, and then I've got to try and get my content stuff up. So if I can't do it before 3 Eastern, it's kind of okay, well then I'll just wait for live because you're not really getting any.
Okay, just keep me updated, and I'll join you.
Okay.
I got.
Well, I can postpone some of the stuff. Actually, do you want to just go back and do it right now?
No, not now.
Okay.
But
okay.
Actually, yeah. If you want to do it give me 10 minutes, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So around 12:45.
Okay, perfect.